Homelessness is a societal problem that has been well addressed. However, over the years, the numbers of those who still live on the street continues to rise. So glad you're with us on Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Ken Ackerman. Joining us is Ed Blackburn. He is the Executive Director of Central City Concern. Thanks once again for joining us. When you come here, I just think once again, the alarming numbers you give me when it comes to street counts, the number of those who on any given night are on the street of Portland.
Well, the last street count showed there were about 1,800 people on the streets of Portland.
And what are we doing more so than what we hear daily to get these people off the street? You say, sure, we need more and more housing, but then on the other hand, you tell me, the housing, the low-income housing we're building doesn't necessarily fit the parameters of those who are homeless.
Well, what we've seen over the years is when we have the resources to build housing, to provide rent subsidies, we can impact homelessness. We can decrease it. We saw that from 2003 through about 2007, where we increased some of the worst cases of homelessness, what we call chronic homelessness, by 40% in the city of Portland. But what we've had recently is further declines in federal government investment in low-income housing, and locally funds that we've traditionally used through urban renewal and some other resources have been in decline. So we're not keeping up. So the increases that we've seen in the last few years are the result of us not having the resources to provide enough low-income housing. The private marketplace does not provide housing for the very low-income people that need it in order to prevent homelessness and to successfully intervene. So we need what we call housing for those who make about 30% of the median family income. And what that means is for a single person, that's about $14,600 a year in Portland. In other words, that person can't afford the average rent, even for a studio apartment in the city of Portland. And the other thing we're seeing is vacancy rates in apartments in the region are at all-time lows. It's historic.
Right.
And so what we're seeing is rents increasing. So we have this, a number of factors coming together that have made it very difficult for us to really decrease those numbers.
You know, it used to be when, I guess, federal housing got a bad name in the 80s with the high-rises, the tenements, Cabrini Greens we were talking about. But that's changed now. Give me the face of what low-income housing looks like in this day and age.
Well, it looks like all kinds of alternatives. But in the city of Portland, we see infill projects that might include some low-income housing. We see mixed buildings where you might have a higher level of income, and the city might subsidize some of the units to be more lower income. You see projects that Central City Concern has done for families, but also for singles. And they could be newer buildings, or they could be rehabs of old hotels like the Ramada Inn that we rehabbed. It's now called the Madrona Apartments across from the Rose Quarter. 176 studio apartments for very low-income people, a very cost-effective way to acquire and to rehab a building for that population.
Now, Central City Concern manages about 1,600 units?
We own or operate 1,600 units. We also work with landlords in the community and through rent subsidies are housing another 400 or so people. So on any given night, we're housing about 2,000 very low-income people who are vulnerable to homelessness. What that means is if Central City Concern housing went away tomorrow, the actual numbers of people on the street would double overnight.
All right, Ed Blackburn, I also want to mention Central City Concern helps out with health care in a big way. We don't have time to talk about that now, but I'd love to have you back to talk about that next time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Thank you as well. We're on the set of Grimm, and we want to thank them for letting us be their guest. So glad you're with us on Comcast Newsmakers. Make it a great day, everyone.